Yeah, we're excited about the details, and you can go to the next slide. My family, wonderful family, and I became a carpenter not necessarily because I had great career planning or I paid attention in careers in high school, but I did look for a job where basically Monday to Friday, basically morning to evening, and I could spend some time with my family. When I'm not doing that, I am mountain biking, and that's me in Tremblant, spending some time off, jumping off of a drop, and so you can go to the next slide. Myself, I bring 30 years of construction experience to the table. I started in hand-cut custom timber frame construction, cladding and sit panels. I'm licensed Red Seal carpenter and been building on my own, under my own business for about 8 or 9 years now. And it's really important, but I am Dutch. And how do you know if somebody's Dutch? They'll tell you. They'll tell you. That's right. So, Above Board Carpentry, again, we've been in the high performance market for 8 years, and that was a natural transition out of the timber framing. I did a little hiatus. I tried to become a high school teacher, and I decided that the Board of Education and Graham Borgdorff do not share the same philosophies. And so I went back to teaching, but just on my own platform in the field. So we are trained Passive House standards, trained and tested. Also net zero ready standards, trained and tested. We've built a number of passive type homes or homes to passive building standards, and we've retrofitted homes to the same standards as well. Current state of affair, most homes are built to the fastest and cheapest methods available. And I think we can all see that. We tour around, we can see membranes flapping in the wind, we can see windows are in before membranes have been installed. There's no through wall flashing. Most of the details are just not being adhered to, and then most homes have virtually no interconnected details, right? So, the buzzwords today are affordable homes, and I'm a firm believer that if we want to build affordable homes, then the homes need to last. And so it's the details that are going to make the difference here. And just a recap, I didn't know what the full audience would be, and so Passive House design principles actually not that much different from the net zero standards that Canada is targeting. A little bit different in the values, but we're looking for super insulated homes that have airtight construction, high performance glazing, thermal bridge free detailing. That's where our continuous insulation comes in. And robust and designed heat or energy recovery ventilation systems. And so I'm talking about the details that really matter to the contractor and to the builders, the people that are actually the boots on the ground, right? So we're the ones that are doing that. And when it really comes down to it, the insulation comes from the design. And I often say a well-trained monkey can probably do most of the insulation details. The windows are built and produced somewhere else, and as long as we're buying good quality windows, they're gonna work. The mechanicals are being designed, manufactured, and brought on site by other trades. But what we really deal with is the air barrier and understanding the air barrier and paying attention to those details. And so I wanna really hone in on that part of it, because even we heard it from the Alexandra, like you can do all you want. Like you can have amazing panels, you can have an amazing design, but if you're not connecting that air barrier wherever that plane is running through the house, paying attention to those penetrations, then none of this stuff is gonna work, and you're gonna end up with a lot of materials, and you're still going to end up with the mold, the condensation, and still a high energy or a high consuming house. early on, and I picked this up in a SIP course that I took, Structurally Insulated Panels, and this really stuck with me, is the 3 driving principles that the builder needs to look after are: we need to keep the water out, we need to assume the water will get in, and we need to give it a way to get out. Now, water, of course, comes in a couple of states, solid, gas, and liquid. Biggest enemy, of course, is liquid water. And if you get a chance to listen to Andy Oding, I think is his last name, does a lot of net zero instruction. He really hones in on that it's the liquid water that's a problem, right? So we can have humidity pass through, we can have the water in the gaseous state pass through, and we've got membranes that deal with all of that stuff. But if we get liquid water into the structure, then we're going to run into problems, especially if we don't give that a way out. So the details that we're going to talk about today are from our Chickadee project, which is just in Gravenhurst, and we're working on that with Tara Wong, and some of you were able to tour that today. And so this is its current state, where it's at. And to your architects out there, anybody looking for builders, and I think I just wanted to highlight, if you have a builder building passive house and they don't own a break, then you haven't hired the right builder. The detailing that's required in order to flash and work around, you're just not buying off-the-shelf trims or details that are going to be able to do what you need to do in order to shed that water from the outside. And so you're really looking, that's a simple question. Hey, do you own a brake? Do you know what a brake is? Do you know how to use a brake? So not a big part of this presentation, but we're really proud of our brake. We bought a 14-foot brake because bigger is better, and we really think it helps provide a better product. Okay. I'm actually, when I was sitting back there a little bit, and I got to put a feather in a cap a little bit, but we've worked with Tuke Tree and with Veta, with Quantum, with Siga, with NZP, with 475, with Blueskin, Rothablas. I've enjoyed some humble pie. We're working with Stone's Throw. So we're checking a lot of boxes here, and I really do think that we build a better product. But we don't do that just because we're good builders. We do that because we're working with a team of people, and we're at these events, we're learning from our suppliers, and we're mixing and matching where we can, and using great products. So actually you can see there's a little bit of Dutch coming out there, right? So I had some Resisto left over from the previous project, and nobody wants all those spare rolls. So Resisto gets a little bit of presence in this building as well. So our air barrier here starts in the foundation. And you can see here what we have is a ledge system for the floor system. And the floor is actually going to sit inside that foundation. And a detail that we're not going to talk a lot about here on this presentation is that this was a panelized house. And so this is just one of the details that we used in order to connect the decks and, help things work out. Details that are easy to miss. So making sure that your membranes work on a 16-foot wall, top to bottom. You tape the bottom, you tape the top, you tape the seams. Easy stuff. Everybody's going to get that right. But here, in the foundation, one of the areas that we want to pay attention to is those T intersections in the foundation. We want to get a piece of membrane in there before we put the floor system on, because that's going to be a place where we can't get that membrane to run continuous after the fact. And so that's just a challenge area, or an area where you want to pay attention to, and you want to look for those as you're going along. Next slide. I don't actually have a picture, but so the rock wool is covering up the Blueskin right now. But once we dropped our wall panels on, these wall panels were pre-taped, and that tape runs from the WRB down onto the Blueskin to provide a nice continuous air barrier there. And it's simple, it's easy to apply, It's at an easy working height. And then you can see where we've put our Comfort Board 80 on this project, fastened it in, and we've allowed some blocking for the decks. So bringing it all together. Because it's panelized, most of the air barrier detailing above the foundation is fairly simple for us to work with because it's been thought through with the panel company. But here we have our 10 mil poly, and we've got that taped to all of our penetrations. One of the things that we do to really help with that, with our penetrations into the foundation, is as much as possible we try to bring them through the ground. So we're sleeving the footings, or if we have a step footing, so a below slab step footing that we can use, bring our penetrations through. Those can leak, and they're leaking to nowhere. So it's a really easy way to ensure that we're getting good air sealing, but also water sealing in our foundation. And then we don't have to do like crazy taping details where those come through. We also have our water coming through, and we also have conduit for our condensate lines for the heat pump. And so just prior thinking about where those are going to be and making sure that you can get those in either by sleeving the foundation or by coring the foundation. Hold on. A little bit of a goofy detail on this one. So this is the first time we used Comfort Board 80 on the outside and then again on the inside. We had to hold that poly up. And typically we would have taped it to the ICF or to something, but there's no taping to Comfort Board 80. So we just tap-conned a piece of strapping on at the top of our slab height and buried that in the concrete. And they could screed off to that. Concrete guys liked it. There was no finding the chalk line. Maybe a little bit of a, is there a problem with the spruce into the concrete? But I think it's a fairly minor indiscretion. But that allowed us to keep our poly nice and tight, no bagging in the corners, so that stays nice while they pour the concrete, and it allowed us for something to tape onto later. And then the other detail that we're looking at here is before the floor system went down. Oh, sorry, actually we did this after the floor system went down, but before the Comfort Board 80 went on, is we taped a flap of Intello, but that's our vapor control membrane, onto the blue skin to maintain that continuity and allow us to bring that over the framed wall, which you can see in the left picture. So then we framed our walls inside of that, which would also get insulated. And then we finished our taping details in this center picture, where we're able to bring the poly up, the Intello down, bring that flap down, and tape that whole membrane. And so now we're continuous with 10 mil poly, Intello vapor control membrane, also taped to our blue skin. Blue skin then transitions to the outside, and that's the path of our air barrier in this house. And the foundations are where I find it's the most goofy. Trying to make sure that we are continuous to get from the ground up and out and back onto something. And knowing where that line is important. And so the air barrier can be the vapor control membrane. It can be the WRB, the weather-resistant barrier. It can be one or the other, depending on what level you're on in the house. And it can be a combination of the two. So in commercial construction, it's not uncommon to see that all three in one, where they've got an interior utility wall and wrap the outside, and the bulk of the insulation is on the outside of the WRB and the vapor control membrane. So that's how we did that at that house. The next detail that we had to sort out on site, or sort out, deal with as the builders on the site, the windows were pre-installed, or most of the windows were pre-installed in the window packages. So we have our windows here. The window detail starts with a sketch, and our rough openings were made 6 inches larger than the window frame size. And so you'll see why that is. In a wood frame construction, actually, when we do that, we would typically go an inch larger. As a framer, I was really passionate about ensuring that we had ROs that were at 3/8, right? Nice and tight, very clean. But when we get to these taping details, we just didn't have enough room for our fingers anymore and such. So we've adapted that a little bit. So next slide. We were able then, because it's a concrete's conductive, we wanted to make sure that we had a nice bed of insulation around that concrete before we started framing our RO. And so you can see that here. Somewhere in the communication between the GC, myself, and the concrete guys, maybe somewhere they lapped their joints wrong in their frames, so we've got an extra 1.5 inches. So instead of just putting 2 pieces of 1.5 inch material on the sill, we chose to just fill with comfort board just to sort of increase the R value there. Not an important detail or a necessary detail, but that's how we did it, just to ensure that just to make it as energy efficient as possible. Next slide. Another detail of that insulation. We then covered that in plywood, and this window detail allows us to press the window against that 2x4. It's wrapped. We wrap in lots of different through wall flashings. There's some blue skin left over. Blue skin works. We don't like blue skin for the corners. It builds up too fast as we lap. So we had some exo-seal still left over from a teak tree project. Thank you, Rick. And so we use that in the corners. Next slide. And then the window's installed and flashed, and now it's ready for siding. Penetrations. Hydrants are the worst. Getting the plumber to line up, the hole drilled, the hole sealed, the water pipe through, and get all of the sealing seems to be one of the most challenging details. I do really like using a conduit for them whenever possible. This isn't a conduit for a hydrant, but it's an example of what we do to tape our conduits. Lots of little pieces going around on the outside. We top flash that just to make sure that it's really well protected. This detail takes, maybe the first time you do it, it might take you 10 minutes. Second time around, you should be down to 5 minutes. Don't think too much about it. But slicing the tape into little strips makes really good use of the tape. I am Dutch. And then on the inside, we like to go to a fast flash, liquid flash type material and back that up again. The inside of a hydrant, again, getting that siding detail, getting that hydrant in at the right time, being there when the plumber does it always seems to be a little bit of a challenge. But in this case, the plumber got through. We didn't have our block on yet, so we had to cut our block to go on either side. Most people won't notice that in the grand scheme of life, but then we did cut our insulation out, remove that piece, seal, caulk it, back it with some tape, put that piece of insulation back. Next. Penetration through the wall panel. In this case, the wall panel is produced with a 1/2 inch plywood is the air barrier, the vapor control membrane. So we have a Cat 6 for security cameras going to the outside. We fast flash that and then back that piece of fast flashing with, I call that a duckbill taping technique, just to sort of give it a little bit more. And then on the outside, you don't always know that you're doing presentations, so you don't always have the perfect picture, but on the outside, we've done the same thing. Oh, that's right. I am Dutch, and first multinational corporation in the world was founded by the Dutch because they built the windmills. Dutchman, wooden shoes, wooden head, wooden change. But we are passionate about building things the best. And so little by little, these details and this discussion that we're having, like, it doesn't have to take longer. It doesn't have to. And your first time you do it, you might be scratching your head a little bit, like, how are we gonna do that? But 8 years in, 9 great staff, people that are dedicated to it, our buildings come together just like we're going to work. We know what we're doing. It just kind of happens. My Christmas gifts get wrapped way nicer now than they used to, because the tidiness and just that sort of mentality of this is what we're going to work to do. Fold the corners up, take a little bit of time the first time to figure out how to get that detail done right. And the next time it's a little bit faster. And by the time after that, you can't even believe that you used to not do it. So get on board, and it really does work. A couple of other things. We do have several homes on the ground. We haven't, I'm over now? I'm a minute over. We have several homes on the ground. We haven't had an air exchange value over decimal 4.3 for the last 8 years, and our best one's about decimal 3.9. So it's, and honestly, it's not that hard. Just pay attention to what's going on.